so we are now recording. And I guess first things first, who are you? And just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Joe.
And we are full-time real estate investors. We specialize in creative financing, but we actually kind of do it all.
Yeah, we live in upstate New York. So when people hear New York, they think New York City. We're like 6 hours from New York City. It's actually like small town, small city, but farmish community.
Yeah, lots of rolling hillsides.
But there is city, obviously, there's population. And so it's really great. So
what is the population? I'm just curious of your town.
So in our county, in the entire county, is about 700,000.
Wow. Okay.
And if you go outside of this county to the next surrounding counties, that number goes down significantly around us.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. I just like to know a little bit of size. So that's good. Okay.
We're about an hour from Niagara Falls.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So why on earth did y'all start investing in real estate?
He started before I did, so
okay.
Yeah, I kind of got lucky and bumped into it. At a friend's house, and he had one of these infomercials off a television infomercial that says how to buy and sell real estate without using credit or money. And I was like, this is perfect, because I was like 22 at the time and I didn't have either one of them.
Yeah.
So this really works. So I asked him if I could borrow it. He was hesitant at first because it was like $300 back then, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And but he did. And so I read the books, listened to all the audio, and within a month I had a deal under contract.
Oh, wow.
Wholesaling it, just did what it told me. And I had to be creative, think outside the box to make the deal go down the finish line. But I was able to help a seller out, help a buyer out, and make an assignment fee of $15,000. So after that, I was kind of hooked. So the first house I ever owned, I only owned it for about half an hour, which is kind of crazy. Your first home, you hope you own it for longer than that, but I didn't. And it kind of got that real bug to start doing more with that. My parents they had some rentals growing up. My grandparents did too, both sides. So it was nothing that I inherited. But I saw that, obviously some of my family was in this realm, and then here I am, dabbled into it and did really well quickly. And so that kind of fell in love. Fast forward, I meet Jen in 2008. I had my own house that I was living in now. She had her own house. And shortly after we met, I'm looking at buying another house, and it kind of confused her at first because she's like, you live in a house, I have one. Why do we need another one?
And it was like not a nice house. So I'm like, it was before all the, HGTV shows. So I'm like, what the heck is going on?
But in 2008, there was a lot of turmoil in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of opportunities if you had access to money. And I had a great job, so I did. So we were able to start buying houses and accumulating at that point. Got into being a landlord, and then realized that was a lot of a job. You're being an adult babysitter. And so we really started fine-tuning our processes in 2016. And we have the crazy summer of 2017, which in our books will always be the legendary summer, where everything kind of flipped. A summer of chaos, a summer of a lot of learning. And that's what really kind of gave us the trajectory to go into the course that we did, which were several different things. And it was how we were able to buy houses creatively without using money, without using banks, and no credit. So if you've got good credit or bad credit, you could buy all the properties you want. We just did a deal with $100, and this house is a stunning house in a beautiful neighborhood, beautiful side of town, hot side of town. And we'll pay closing costs, which is probably going to be about $5,000 range. And we own a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's turnkey. So once we kind of find out how to do that, we just had the desire to scale.
Yeah.
And
the dream was to work together full time. So I stayed home, raised the babies, was kind of doing the real estate thing on the side. And then right before pandemic hit, we signed up and kind of went all in on some marketing changes and kind of learning a little bit more about that, because my goal was to send the kids off in the fall and do real estate and bring him home. And in turn, we now homeschool, and we went full time together before that even got to happen. So it's been a huge leap for us the last year and a half. We went from just Jenn and Joe to now we have a team of
six,
and
adding a seventh, maybe eighth.
Yeah, we're hiring right now. And just scaling. We went to just doing things around our area in New York to nationwide now. So it's really been an incredible experience to be able to do this, and a lot of learning curves along the way. Definitely get out of your comfort zone quite a bit here, and you're just helping so many more people. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. I got a few questions. Hopefully I can read my scribbles. Okay, so when you said your first deal was that you owned it for a half hour, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you like double deed it? Like, how did you do that? You were still at the closing table and you're like, oh, wait, can you let me sign the papers again? You know,
Exactly.
is that, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I sat at the closing table, and the lobby, there was a whole bunch of people there. And we first go into the room, and here I am signing the paperwork to buy the house. I never actually met the owners because one lived in Connecticut, one lived in California. Here, the house is in New York. So all I did was we just sat down with their attorney.
Mhm.
So we signed the paperwork that we're buying the house. They know they weren't going to get a check for days because there were some liens. We just were going to make sure to do another search to make sure there was no other liens attached to the property since we've done the last search, which was about 30 days old or so. So they know they weren't leaving with a check, and they're okay with that. Meanwhile, my buyer is in the lobby with a check. So after the seller's attorney leaves, we invite my buyer in and his attorney, and I'm signing more paperwork. Never got out of my chair. So maybe it wasn't even half an hour. It could have been like 20 minutes.
Right.
And then once the certified check was given to my attorney, that title search was done again. The proceeds all got sent accordingly. And actually, I got a check for $12,733 and like 46 cents.
Great. That's awesome.
You don't forget that.
You know, and that's a great first deal. So I do want to mention, I mean, we've both been in the business for a minute. That's sort of unusual. I'm sure you can teach people to do that, but for the most part, getting a deal like that on your first time is it's impressive to me at least. So I do want to say, like, as far as the liens go, let's talk a little bit about that. Do you remember how much the liens were for and what kind they were? Were they mechanical? Like, what did you come across?
Yeah, so we had a dispute between the two owners. They were partners, and once they both moved out of state, students were living in the house, wrecked it when they moved out. So now they don't have the means to come home and fix it, either one of them, because they have their jobs and families. They didn't have the money to go put money into the property, so it sat delinquent, and it became people breaking into it, stealing the gutters, power off, basement getting flooded, mold damage, you name it. It was all happening there. So with that being the case, one of the partners had a lien from a repo. He had a car repossessed, and there was a lien for $17,000 from the bank on that property. And this was actually a lien that I'd never done this before, but I personally negotiated it down because I explained to the bank the situation is from what they owe on the property plus this lien attached to it. It's making the price of the house unobtainable for anybody to buy it. And if they don't, it's just going to go back to the bank, and then you guys get nothing. So would you rather take something, because I'm going to want to buy this property and I could get you guys some money. So we had negotiated it from 17,000. I got it down to 5,000. So I have the house under contract now for 25,000, and my buyer bought it for me for 40.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I like negotiation. It's one of my favorite things to read about. Did you use any anchoring? Did you start with like, oh, I'll give you 1,000. Like, this is how much I have in my bank account. How did you get it to 5?
They hit it at higher originally. And I said, nope, that won't work. I said the rock bottom, the only way this, and the most I could come out of pocket for this would be to pay you guys $5,000. And to be honest with you, if I don't buy it, I know what their next move is, and you're going to get nothing. Right. So do you want that 5,000, or do you guys want to just risk getting nothing?
Right. And so you said 5,000 each time. Did it go back and forth? And you were like, no, 5. And
yeah,
because say blanc, and you'd be like, no, 5.
Yeah. Originally, I think they were at like 10.
Okay.
And I was like, no deal. And they're like, well, that's what the number is. And that's when I kind of just drew the line in the sand and saying the most would be this number. And they were okay with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, perfect. Sorry, just sometimes it helps to hear a little bit more of that process. So I appreciate
there was motivation. There was leverage behind it because of the situation. That's the leverage, is the situation. If it was just for nothing, then that could be one thing. But this was actually like a true situation was going to happen. So I wasn't really trying to play hardball. I was just explaining this is where the deal needs to make sense for everybody, because if not, you guys are going to get nada. And, when you're nice about it, I always think that you can attract more bees with honey than vinegar. So I'm very polite, I'm very nice. I'm always, thank yous and yes, please. But I'm very, I know what I'm talking about too. And this is where it needs to be. So, I always think that when I made that call, I didn't know if they were going to do anything.
Right.
But I figured if I don't make the call, I already know what the answer is. So at least I'm going to try. And lo and behold, that $12,000 swing was my $12,000.
Right. Perfect. All right. Well, cool. So I'm curious about your next few deals, right? So, this might have been a really big deal for you, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But what can you talk a little bit about, like, maybe that was a home run on your first one, and then after that you made like 5K spread, or what kind of deals were you making the next three, somewhere around there?
So we got lucky because I think we had access to money because of my old job. I was in a corporate world, but I knew everybody at banks, and good credit, high paying job. So when we were able to find some deals in end of 2008, when the market was really crashing, it was a buyer's market because you could just score deals, believe it or not, right off the MLS. It was that easy back then. And you could find amazing deals. So I wouldn't strike unless the deal was absolutely amazing. So we would cherry pick because I already had a good job that's paying me. And if I was going to take time away from that, it had to be worth our time. And so the next few projects, we actually still own them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're turning out to be amazing plays on every one of our properties, because we look at it as the solution that we could help buyers turn from renters into owners, and the programs that we have in place now. It really, truly helps folks. So having these properties, as long as we have, has only made the deal better for us, because these properties are just keep on going up value. But now we're actually going to turn renters into owners with our next chapter of our business. And that's been super grateful, as far as you're able to make positive impacts in people's lives. And that's been awesome.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, because that's actually something I've started to think about. But what I've come into is that for the deal to work, there has to be a down payment that makes sense for at least, a year of loss of rents. And that has been hard. So are y'all helping people getting financing for the down payment, or how are y'all structuring that? Because this is a lease to own deal is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So technically, to take a loan out, like going to the bank for your down payment, you're not supposed to do that. So a lot of times, can people take it from a retirement plan, possibly? Have programs like that. Some folks have money from different various reasons, but you're right. The big hang up in this part of it is finding the right fit for the right property. So maybe the amount of money that they have for a down payment is not enough for that property, but we come across a lot of them. So if you do have some money and you have that desire, let's get your information. And when we find something that fits in your budget range, and that's something that, the size house that you're looking for, we'll put you in touch. And then if it works out well. So there's houses in all price ranges. California, I'm sure, is a challenge, because you hear we bought houses for 25 grand here, and you're like, yeah, our driveway costs more than that.
Yeah.
Super long time ago. We'll throw out this disclaimer, but there's still those houses here in Rochester.
Yeah.
But I think it's really just analyzing these deals that we've come across to answer your original question, and really just being particular on the ones that we move forward with, because I like to learn a lot from other people, good and bad. And I've seen a lot of folks just wanting to make a deal, jump into some pretty bad deals, and it ends up hurting them in the long run. So you got to anticipate even some unexpected things happening, which do happen, because they do.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm curious, will y'all be marketing towards your renters now to do that? Or what are you just, how is your process looking for that, I guess?
As far as
for rent to own?
Yeah. So like you're basically reaching out to the renters you already have, and you're saying, hey, would you like to buy this? Is that your first step? Or are you just going out to the general market saying, lease to own, we just flipped this house, that kind of deal?
When we first switched everything, like he was saying, into 2017 was when we came to all of our properties and said, hey, we're going to offer rent to own if you fit these qualifications and want to move forward. And they did not. So at that point, then we had to market it. And now at this point, we won't just rent anymore because there's just so many advantages to offering the lease to own. So, it just, if you put it out there on Facebook or, we hang signs, your phone's going to ring, your messages are going to just blow up. And a lot of them don't have the large non-refundable option deposit, but there are people out there that do. And that's the part where you really have to shift your mindset. That's what took me a little bit of time was, how would somebody not be able to just go buy a house, but they have all this money? They do for many reasons. And credit is probably one of the biggest, obviously, if it's student loans or medical bills or something happened. And people do have the money and they do need a home to live in and they want that home ownership. So, having that ability to offer this has just been really life-changing. I mean, getting those folks across that second closing table, we call it. So they'll move in the house and maybe it takes a couple years and then they now officially own it. That's an amazing feeling on both sides for them and for us.
Right. And I love that y'all mentioned credit. We'll probably get into this a little bit more. I know you've said, no credit or low credit. Even when I'm renting properties, the thing I always say is like, I don't care if you have medical bills. I don't care if you have, medical collections or, student loan stuff. What I do care about is, have you paid rent the whole time? And that's the only, I'm like, that's it. If you have that, cool. Like we're good. So I think that's a really good point to mention as well. It's like, I'm just worried if you're going to pay rent or pay your mortgage, that's it.
Yeah.
All that other stuff, student loan debt's outrageous anyway. That's a whole other topic. But yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's why I really love our clients and the folks that we deal with now, because they're not they're in a different mind frame, because they're not looking at this just another rental. They're looking at, they have some stake in the game, and their goal is to own this house in a few years. And so they treat the property much differently. Don't get me wrong. We have folks that get backed up from rent from time to time. Things happen. We understand that, but they try their darndest to get caught up quickly. Unlike renters, and then from time to time they don't. But overall, the mentality of somebody who plans on buying this home is a lot different than just a renter. And it seems like even when it comes to taking care of the property, the upkeep, the gardening they do, and things like that,
they add bathrooms, like they're the ones who are putting in the egress windows in the basement, and they know that this is their home and they're working towards owning it. So they want to keep it up to par.
Right.
Majority.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let me see if I can read through these scribbles real fast and then we'll get back to the regular stuff here. Let's see. Oh, you mentioned y'all have children. How many children do you have?
We have two, a little boy, a little girl. And we're homeschooling them officially this year. So that's been a little bit new. We did the remote learning last year, but this year it's all us. Our goal is to be able to travel with them a little bit more eventually, and, just show them more of the entrepreneur side. I was a teacher.
Oh, cool.
So I definitely value education, but I think it's really cool when you can take it into your own hands. And, earlier we were learning about basket weaving and talking about different native Indians in, the America. And it's just kind of cool, like all the they're where their minds go. So we've had fun with that. And then they're always with us. So we take them to the properties. They're hands-on. I mean, they're falling in the mud and everything else. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old are they?
6 and 8.
6 and 8. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a good age. That's definitely an age to, so do they have like bank accounts that are interest bearing, and what, yeah, let's talk a little bit about how you're educating them financially, because I think that's super important from a young age.
So what we are starting for them right now is what's called a Coverdale account, which 99% of other folks don't know what those are.
I don't know what that is. Please tell.
Yeah. So a lot of folks there's programs like the 529 account and things like that, where, but that's also based on the market performing well. So obviously if the market's doing well, great, your account will do well. But I've also seen times when the market wasn't doing well and some of the accounts went down significantly because of that. And what we've really seen is we are able to get much better returns with our money investing it into real estate than we can in a market. Night and day difference. And it's secured by real estate. So there are actually accounts that your kids could have called Coverdale accounts that you can start. And what they can do is with these accounts, they could be partners and invest into some of your real estate deals. And the proceeds from those deals could go back into their Coverdale account, tax-free, to use for higher education. So what does that look like? Well, we're homeschooling. If we want to hire an online tutor and that costs how many thousands, we could use that account to pay for that. And that's tax-free money that was done by real estate. If we decide they want to get a laptop for school, or if they want to go to a trade school or a college, room and board, books, it goes for all of those things up until the age of, I believe, 30 years old. And then the account has to be opened under the age of 18. So as long as the child is under the age of 18, they could have one of these accounts. And at the age of, I think it has to be used by the age of 30, if I'm not mistaken. And if they don't use any of the money, you could get it removed and they will charge you just the tax on it if you pull it out. But it is something to think of if you're doing real estate deals, whether you're wholesaling and you make $15,000 profit and they were JV on that deal, their IRA or their account, and that could go back in there. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make that beneficial to the kiddos. And that's really where we're going to want to focus on, especially with homeschooling, and who knows what their future is going to be. And I don't want to, and I think we both agree that I don't want to have to force them into college unless there's something that they love and that's what they want to do. But when I grew up in my era, I'm going to be 44, not that old, but the thought process was back in the 90s that if you're graduating high school and you don't go to college, you're going to have that big L, and it's.
And I'm 40 and that was me too. And I wanted to be a teacher, but I mean, you had to go to college. That's what you did. And, now that I've been there, done that, got my master's, like, I'm not the parent that's going to push my kid through college because it's the right thing to do. Like, we definitely have a different set of eyes now, financially, especially. And so using things like Coverdell, I think, are going to be absolutely amazing for them.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I appreciate you mentioning that. Something I mean, I don't have children, so it's not like on my radar yet, but something I saw recently that I thought was really cool is that parents will put their children as authorized users on their credit cards to help them build credit. So like when they do want to, have their first rental or, even buy a car, like they're able to have good credit from the get-go. And that's just mind blowing to me.
Well, yeah. And that's my background was I did credit. So, I mean, I know credit reports like the back of my hand, and you see a lot of folks doing just what you said, adding to the kids as authorized users. That could be good or bad, depending on how that parent uses that account, right? They make late payments or they max that credit card out. That's going to hurt their credit and the kids. But if they're generally responsible, that's a great thing to do.
Maybe we'll actually hold the parent accountable and do the right.
I've seen both good and bad. So that's why, be careful who the right person that is going to be doing that. Sure. But flip side of that is, you want to be able to set your kids up, or just young people in general, you want to be able to set them up right for the future.
Yeah.
So having those talks, having our kids go with us to these properties, seeing mom and dad how much we do work and how it's not just Instagram and smiles and rainbows all the time.
Right. And even with them, I mean, they're really into this game called Roblox. And so they earn Robux. And so it's just like, really having to teach them, because everything is electronic, so they don't see the cash. So it's like, that's been a process to teach them, like, this costs money. And this is when we work, we earn the money, nothing's free. So there's a lot of steps that, you could be taking day to day if you have kids, to just break it down and make them understand that you work and you earn.
Right. Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, and then at one point, you mentioned that you wanted to like bring him home. So were y'all like long distance for a little bit? What, like when you
felt like it? No.
Oh, he was just always at the properties or something?
No, he had a full-time job at a dealership in finance. So he worked 50, 60 hours a week or more if there were big sales happening. And so he'd leave the house at 8 a.m. sometimes and come home after 10, worst case scenario. And so there were oftentimes he wouldn't see the kids in the morning and he wouldn't see them at night. And we tried to FaceTime, but we're the kind of couple that gets along best when we're together, and when we don't see each other, it's not like, that's not what we want. We really had this vision of working together and being a couple and helping others. And so I thought, okay, when the little kids go off to school, then this is my chance to really, hit the floor running and be able to buy more properties and do it creatively so that he can walk away and we don't have to rely on the banks anymore, because that job was so well paying and it was, fun and exciting for him and he liked the people he worked with, but there was no time.
Well, and I think the biggest challenge is walking away from that perceived security of
Perceived, I like
a
that.
JOB, which we always say stands for just over broke. It doesn't matter how much money you make, right? So yeah, the money was fantastic, but the life that we were living at the time with me always working, missing lunches. I mean, there was times
Just
you're
rush.
you're so busy. I mean, even sometimes using the men's room was a luxury. So you kind of forget some of the small things in life and how quickly they go by. And so the goal was to, if we could somehow walk away from that job that paid so well, and how can we do this full time? Well, if we just bought real estate conventionally, going to the bank and saying, please give us a loan, and they say yes or no, then both of us being self-employed makes that very difficult. And I know all the folks at the banks, and it's still very difficult. It would have been difficult, even with great credit scores. So the one thing that we realized with creative financing is that we can buy and sell all of the real estate we want without using banks, without using credit. And like I said earlier, very little money. We could buy as many properties as we want. So we've gone to the point, and I don't know if I'm going too fast forward, but when we first started, before we went full-time, we were buying a house maybe 2 a year.
Yeah.
Because we were busy. And when we went full-time, this was the beginning of the pandemic. And we went full-time, we went to doing obviously 0 to 1 a month, hit 2 a month. And this month we have 11 contracts.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
a year later, and here it is, we're hitting double digits. And so we've learned a lot in that process. We've grown with our team, and we have a fantastic, amazing group, the A team, of folks who are just from different backgrounds across the country, that we work with, who came aboard our team.
And they see the vision, like they can actually feel and see where we're going. And I think because a lot of real estate is, you put in the work, but you don't see those rewards for quite some time, whether it's just closing a deal here in New York. It's taking us over 60 days on some of these. So you have to have that persistence and that drive. And that, like, once we really got this, as Joe called it, the A team around us, like that, everything is just really shifted.
Right. No, I appreciate you speaking about that. So I had a corporate job as well. And I remember, like, even when I went to the restroom, it's funny you mentioned that, I was like looking at deals and reading emails on the toilet. And I'm like, man, this is like not eating. I like lost 15 pounds within like the first week. It was like insane.
Like your 30 seconds of privacy.
Yeah.
Is not that private when you're got somebody's email you're reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to text, that even that wouldn't save me enough time. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, I fouled into the men's room while they're talking to me.
And now it's by the kids, but other than
yeah,
right. Yeah, my dogs are in the bathroom with me now too. That's hilarious. Yeah. So,
and that was really hard. I mean, he was at work, and I would have questions about something going on in our other business, and there were times I couldn't get a hold of him. And so that made me just have to start making decisions too and grow my confidence, because, he was just so busy as he just continued to climb that ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about, hiring a team. What position was your first hire?
We had 2 gentlemen that we hired as acquisitionists to our team.
Was it the dispositionist or acquisitionist first?
I thought it was.
I can't remember.
I think it was the first 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like it went pretty fast. So if you want to say the first 3, that's fine.
Well, we were talking to one of our mentors at the time, and we were kind of like, we don't know, what steps to do next. Like, we want to grow bigger. And he's like, you need to hire people. And he's like, go get the book Rework, I think it was called.
That's a great book. Yeah. It's a great
book.
book.
I was like, okay. So I buy the book, and I remember being at the beach, and like these little light bulbs are going off, and I'd be like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, and we just, all of a sudden, we like had people reach out and be like, yeah, we're interested in learning more. And I was like, there they are. Like, these are the people, like, let's try them out, because you don't know until you just start going through the motions. And then everything starts forming into, it was my birthday, I believe. And he was on a team meeting with these 2 gentlemen. I was like, I'm going to take the day and be with my sister. We were all together, but he's sitting there at the beach training these 2 guys because they were eager and hungry to learn. And he was more than willing. So, again, sacrificing a little bit here and there of our time. to grow. And it's funny because it's like you put out in the universe what you're looking for and the people appear. It's almost freakish. It just
Even today.
Even today, it just happened again.
Yeah, I don't want to like move the camera around, but I have a vision board. I do one every year. Yeah, totally into it. Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Shows Jen.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so we'll get back to the questions here. Sorry about that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that. How much, I mean, it sounds like, you had a corporate job, you all, had a little bit of savings. But I know you didn't have any money in the first deal, but how much money did you start with, I guess, in order to start, or at least let's say, how much did you start with when y'all decided to go full time? How did you get there to that place? Like, did you say, I want 200K before I want to quit my job? Or what was the process like for y'all to decide that?
So originally what we did was we had a time frame, right? So you have a plan, but then sometimes plans don't go as planned. And so you just bob and weave. So originally what our plan was pre-pandemic, we didn't really know this was ever going to happen. But I think around February, we were like kicking up some marketing ideas. We spent a lot of money on some mastermind group that we were part of that also dove into marketing, which then we realized that how we can get sellers, right? Because we need to figure out how to buy properties. And the goal was February, April, May, June. Then in the fall, the kids go to school. Jen was going to do this full time. And then while the kids are in school, still manage everything else that she was doing, which was a lot. And then once we could build up enough revenue, which we didn't know what that number really was, we didn't have like a set target, then hypothetically in fairyland, I was going to come home one day.
In like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean,
the obstacle was that my job just kept on growing, my day job, and my income just climbed. I mean, every single year it was going to go up. And my role was getting bigger.
Yeah.
So it made it harder for me to walk away. And then when the pandemic hit, this was March, and I had a nurse in my office. I was having conversations about this, and a medication that I take called Humira for Crohn's. It lowers your immune system. So they said, well, obviously with a compromised immune system, you get this virus that we don't know anything about yet. It could be a lot of issues. And so I talked to the owner. And I said, well, obviously, I love you guys, but this isn't something I feel comfortable coming to work. So my last day of work was March 12th. And the next day, like, hey, listen, this is going to probably die over. And when it does come back, but until then, like, stay home. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then we kind of had that, like, this ain't going away.
Yeah. It was like a week later and everybody was home. And it was like that weird period we all went through. But then people started going back and we were looking at each other and we're kind of like, are you gonna try? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're sitting in this office right here. And to me, I always say it was like, it was a do or die. Like, there was no option. Like, he was either going to go back to that or suffer consequences that we did not want to even face, or we're going to make this happen. This is our dream. This is a blessing in a horrible situation that so many are faced with right now with the pandemic, but we can do this. And we did, and we are.
Yeah, great. Well, congrats. Yeah.
So what we've realized was we've really zoned in on a business plan that you can scale from 0 to hero if you wanted to. We did have savings. We did have some investments. We did have some property. We had a beautiful piece of property, 20 acres, that we were going to build a house on.
Yep.
That we bought because we found a steal of a deal. So we just bought this lot. And our goal was to build on it. But then once we had that realization that, wait a second, I'm not going back to work. This was the craziest thing ever. But once we realized I'm not going back to work, then if I'm not going back to work, we're not tied to building a house that's close to where I was working, because I'm free for the first time in my whole life. We're both free. Neither one of us are tied down from a job. So is that where we'd want to live? If we had other choices, the answer would have been no. Right. So we bought land for $60,000 and we sold it for $133,000.
Nice. Very nice.
Good investment. So with that being the case, we had other investments too. And we realized you can't live off savings. So we need to crank up some deal making. And that's really where we started. Getting into mastermind groups was probably one of the most beneficial things that we've done. And that's what helped our tremendous growth, was learning good and bad from other folks.
Right. Do you have one that you recommend?
So it's hard to say. It depends on where you are in your career and where you're wanting to be. Ours is completely amazing. I'm not trying to say it that way, but it is, because we've been a part of lots of them. And for what we offer our students,
Yeah, well,
is
more
something
mentoring, I would say, not just mastermind.
that's true.
Yeah.
Nobody else is really giving. I'm just saying, that's what it is.
Yeah, we're researching right now. We're looking for that next step, because we've been in, the smartest ones in the room, and we want to be with other folks who are doing a lot more and have been doing this a little longer, or a lot longer. So I think that's really the key too to success, is to continually surround yourself around people that are heavy hitting, and they're being successful, and they're good humans, and they're doing the right things in real estate. Because you can look around and see a lot of people showing off on Instagram, but what are they really doing? Like, what's really happening behind the scenes? And that's where we've really honed in this last year of, okay, this is what we need. So let's interview people that we want to be around it, versus, almost being starstruck because so-and-so has a big following, or they are on XYZ show or commercial or this or that.
Yeah, a key point that I like that you said is interviewing. I did the same thing. I made a list, like, okay, I actually wrote out my ideal mentor, and I was like, what qualities would they have? Like, how many deals are they doing? Wrote it all out. And then I was like, okay, well, these are the questions I need to ask everyone. Yeah. I think that's really important. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. All right, let's see. So you kind of mentioned one that was a little weird about something you've seen in an investment property. Missing gutters sounds weird to me, but what's the weirdest thing you've seen in an investment property that you've either purchased or heard about?
I've been in so many properties in my lifetime, it'd be hard to even narrow down to one, but I would say some of the weirder ones are the ones where we walk inside of and they're so disgusting that she won't usually make it through the door. If she does, and that's not weird, that's just straight nasty.
Yeah.
But there's many that we would go to, and that she roughs it out. Don't get me wrong, homegirl has been through some stuff. But we walk through some of these properties, and there's one that we actually purchased. We bought it with creative financing. The seller
she knows which one you're about to say.
Oh,
it's not that long ago. I've been in this rodeo for a while, and
I've been through some stuff that would make anybody's head turn. So I maybe have a tougher stomach for some of it. That was really bad. We had a firehouse. We had a house that caught on fire, and the pure smell of that one got me. That one, I had to turn around. That smell makes me want to just do things.
Yeah. Everything was left in the house, food and everything, and just was.
And it was burned.
Yeah.
So that was a really bad one.
I think it's just really surprising to me when somebody maybe passes away or something happens and they just leave. I just can't believe some people live like that. It just makes me really just be like, wow, and it's frustrating, because you're like, why didn't XYZ happen? And so, you really, but you're there for the people, and you're empathetic. And so whoever's left with the mess, if you will, they can't even handle it. And that's where we come in with our crew, or, whomever we're going to help sell that house to. And I think that's been just really eye-opening, is you never know the person's story, and you can't try to figure it out, but how can you help them? Because I think there's been quite a few houses where we're just like, wow, there's so much stuff here. How did they even shower? Or, there was no running water, and again, you can't figure it out. And
I mean, we have a property that the gentleman was living there with no heat. It gets cold.
And we're in New York. I mean, we're talking 10 below some nights in the winter.
And he inherited a house. He's living in it's in a really ritzy area. It's a $500,000 house. It has no power. He's got no heat, and he's got 4 dogs he's snuggling in bed with. And so, I mean, you come across a lot of situations that are not just walking in the properties, because the other flip side of what we do is we buy probably 99% of our properties virtually, buy and sell. We mostly never walk into properties anymore, because we buy all over the country. And so really it's more of the situations that are going along with these properties that are sometimes, we could write a book, and between buyers and sellers, you hear so many things. Some of it's pretty sad. Some of it's just darn right entertaining.
Right.
I mean,
it's a fine line between the two. I mean,
right.
Oh my gosh, I just can't. And then on others, you realize it's not just a number, it's not just a deal. These are people. It's just a situation. So you really have to, again, use your heart, right? Be a human.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to share, how much is your portfolio worth now?
That
It's
would
kind
be
of different because y'all are, buying and selling, but
Yeah.
so that's what I would say. It's so hard to say because what we do and at the volume that we are, I mean, we're doing 5 to 10 deals a month. Some we keep in house, some we contract out. It's one of those things where it's multi millions. I just don't know exactly what the number is, and it changes literally weekly.
Right.
We literally have a whiteboard over here and there's 21 properties and I'm looking at it and I don't think we've updated it in maybe a month or two.
Yeah.
Some of them are gone. Some of them have been bought out. Some of them have been sold. I don't even know anymore. I mean, we can't count doors because again, we either have tenant buyers cashing us out or we wholesale the property. And it's funny because we call it the playbook because you just never, from start to literal finish, you never know what's going to happen with some of these deals.
Right. So what are y'all using for your accounting then? What accounting systems are you using?
So we have a very good bookkeeper. Jenn teams up with her, so they keep track of everything coming and going. And then they use QuickBooks, and it goes right to our accountant. So years in the past,
she does the QuickBooks. I gave up on that. I started hiring her out. That was causing way too much stress and tears. And so I just literally go through the statements every month and give a little line by line of what was what. And that gives her the ability to plug it all into that crazy thing called QuickBooks. Facebook.
Right.
One of them books.
Yeah.
It's kind of a life changer because when you're able to delegate some of those things that were really putting a lot of stress, and tax season for Jenn in the past was like days of papers and crying. And
well, we 7, 8 properties. It was manageable. Like once we hit 10, I was like, oh God. Like
and then it started climbing. It starts to become a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me, I do everything through Google Sheets and then also Stessa for my property management, which is great. But yeah, I got to the same point. I was like, I have like a wad of receipts in my pocket and like, I hate this. Like, I don't want this anymore. So yeah, that's always life-changing when you can just take a picture and send it to someone else. I'm like, thank God. Thank God for Abby. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. And then let's see. So, why on earth would you ever want to do this with your life partner? I know y'all talked about this a little bit, but like sometimes people butt heads. It sounds like y'all have done okay, but do y'all want to speak on that a little bit? How has that been for y'all?
Well, again, it was for us. When I was a teacher, and I was just funny. I was thinking about this morning. Like I would wake up at 4:30 in the winter to be able to get to my job on time because it would take me probably over an hour, and the roads are bad or whatnot. And so it's probably a 2-hour commute. So I'm out of the house by 6:30. I don't get home until 4, and he's sleeping when I would leave. And then he's working until possibly 9, 10 o'clock at night. Like we never saw each other. I mean, to me, that's just not life. So when you find the right person, and we met a little later, I would say like not super late, but like I was 26 and you were 30. So like by then we knew exactly what we were looking for. And when you find the one, you want to spend all your time with them. And, I'm not saying it's all perfect because we've had, a little butting of the heads, but mostly it was where does that person belong? And so we really figured out who does what best and what don't you like and don't do that type thing. Now there's times where we both have to work together on things, and we both love marketing. So we work really well trying to figure out like what ads really work or how do we get more people here or there. I love kind of organizing and systems are kind of my thing.
But you're also very creative and a great writer.
Yes, that too. And he loves negotiating, talking to sellers, getting on the phone. Like he's like training our team earlier this morning, and like that's his jam. So figuring like out which was what, and not trying to overstep boundaries too much, but also hold each other accountable. So like, hey, we haven't posted or gone live. We need to like make sure we keep up on that. So stuff, just taking criticism, which is definitely one of my weaknesses, I would say. I like to be perfect and I'm not. So definitely learning real quick how to be better and know that you can grow every day and be better. But I don't miss the days where he would be like, you got to go do. And he would tell me all this stuff at like 7:30 in the morning when I'm not even
at the breakfast table.
Right. And I'm like, the babies are crying. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't miss that. Like now it's more like, okay, like let's have a little meeting in the day, or we can, just chat here and there. But I mean, we really do love it. If you want to add anything.
And it's cool because like, I mean, I think at your day job, you're forced to work with who your company hires.
Right.
Right. And this is what I was actually talking to our team this morning about, is because everybody in our team has a special spot. And these are all people that we like to work with them and they like to work.
Yeah. And they choose.
And so with that being the case, it is a great culture that we have, and everybody gets along. It is like a family, and every company always says this is like a family, and some truly are. But like what we have is something really special, and everybody's got each other's back, and there's no he said, she said stuff. There's not even any he's here. It's all she's except for me. So,
which is funny.
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
really what we have is we have some folks who are, I mean, one of them, she's a young lady. She just graduated high school in June. And when we interviewed her, she's like, I want to be a real estate investor. And I was like, well, are you going to go to college after? She's like, no, I'm going to be a real estate investor. And then we brought her on our team, and she is doing fantastic. And, you know, it's just working with the right people and having that right culture is been.
And again, the vision, you know, him and I see down the road of where we want to be. And so like just having that commonality of knowing like why we're getting up every day and doing, you know, what we're doing. And there's times where like you don't want to do certain things, but you have to, and you hold on to your why, because you know the bills need to get paid, and you need to market, and you need to talk to the sellers. And even if you don't feel like it, you just push through some of those things so that you can live life on your terms and have that bigger dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like that it was a little wonky, like it should have been in the beginning, but it sounds like you found your places. So,
it was just so weird, I would say too, in the pandemic, because we're just like, what? Like nobody knew what was going on. I think that was just crazy too.
So we're forming a new company almost, or we're just planning on taking together. We're working together for the first time. There's a new global pandemic that's coming around. I mean, it was like our kids are home full time instead of going to school. So there was so many things that were all kind of happening, our craziness at once. It was a lot to digest, but I said to her, I was like, you know, we're going to come like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you know, because we're going to figure this all out. And it's happening. And as we see this pandemic, it's not going away.
No.
And as there's people in some really situations that could use some help. So what we're doing is only going to get bigger, and there's more people that need help, and we are able to offer ways that other investors can't. So we have such a unique buying strategies, multiple ways. That's why we do call it the Creative Finance Playbook, because there's so many different ways. Every other investor is looking for, you know, a wholesale deal or some crazy great deal. We could pay way more than other investors, and they can't really grasp how we're able to do that. But this is why we're able to make deals. And we say the same thing over and over again. You could put us in the most competitive market in any city, USA. If you give me a phone with some internet connection, we can start turning deals in less than 30 days.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah.
It's having
like a challenge.
I want to do that. We're going to do a challenge like that.
Yeah, you should.
I see that happening in the future.
Let's pick Florida or someplace warm.
Well, I want it to be a tough market, because if we could go into a tough market and just knock it out, then it proves it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody thinks, you know, it doesn't work in their area. It does.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I mean, I don't like being on the phone, but I can do it when I have to. But yeah, to your point, like I like marketing. I don't like being on the phone. So I need someone that likes being on the phones. That's probably gonna be my next hire. Yeah. Email all day.
Recognize that and you're able to fill that seat. And that's really where the growth happens.
Yeah. But yeah. So, all right, let's see. What's your favorite part of real estate investing?
So I guess that's hard. There's a lot of things that I enjoy. We both love turning renters into owners,
right?
With our program. That's really awesome. I would think it's like 1A and 1B, but also I love teaching others.
I was going to say, like, ever since we started coaching others,
yeah,
like seeing their growth in the last 6 months has just like, wow, like feel like a big proud mama bear or something. Like, oh my gosh, look at they had it in them all along. They just needed a little bit of guidance and, you know, just they're flying now. So that's really been awesome.
I was gonna say I think it's impacting other people's lives, and that's really been it. So with our students and just watching them, they came to us and where they are in the last 6 months and what they're doing now, it's just that's a great feeling to know that we're helping other people who are also helping other people.
Right.
And you know, hopefully that impacts them for the rest of their life. And that's cool to be part of that process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. So I know y'all have gone nationwide. So you don't have to say like every little market, but what are some of your top markets that you're investing in right now?
We literally find deals everywhere. We just got to check for North Pole, Alaska. So here's my theory behind it. And this is the one that we share with students and our own team. A great deal in your own backyard. If you have a great deal, it's an hour away. Is that still a great deal? Sure. What if it's 5 hours away? Is it still a great deal if it's a great deal? So if you have a great deal, you're always going to find somebody who wants that great deal, right? And if it's an area that you want to keep it in for your own portfolio, then you do that. If it's something where it's just not in that area where you're doing a lot of investing, you could assign that great deal to somebody else, and they're going to be more than grateful. If you find a bad deal in your own backyard, how hard is it to sell? Very. If you have a bad deal, it's an hour away or 10 hours away, same thing. So it's about finding great deals.
Knowing your numbers.
And knowing the numbers. And so what constant training we do every Wednesday with our team is we look at ARV. We look at repair costs. That's exactly what we went over this morning with our team in our sales training meeting, is how to really get dialed in on an ARV. And I actually love it because one of the team members corrected me today, Elizabeth, who's a rock star. And she found a comp that I didn't spot that kind of gives us some more room on that deal. Now we're making that deal. Right. So bravo to Elizabeth. And it wasn't even her deal. It's Abby's deal.
Nice.
So this is the thing, is having that team, masterminding, going over these things, that's key.
I think that's cool too, because like just one set of eyes is, your mind, but if you put multiple people together, then they're going to see things that you might not have. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. I always like it when I'm not the only person checking the work. Yeah.
And I love getting corrected by our team too. I gave her that virtual high five rate. I'm like, good for you, girl. Get it. Like, tell me I missed something, and I love to see that. This is why, when we say when they came to us as our own team and they didn't really have a whole lot about it. Now I'm seeing how quickly they've changed. It is a gratifying feeling to help that and be a part of that process too, because we're changing people and getting them to do what they want to do with their lives.
Yeah.
And if that 9 to 5 of that corporate job is not it, and they want to do this, here's the gift.
Yeah, that's so I'm interested in that. So it seems like you do know your teammates why, but is that like part of your interview questions? Like, why do you want to do this? Or when do y'all start doing that? And do you like post it up on the wall, or how do you get them to keep thinking about that all the time?
So I sent in our group text message, you probably saw this morning.
I listened to it.
Did you? Great job. There is a recording by Earl Nightingale. It's super old. It's probably from like the 1960s or 50s. It's in black and white. And it really talks about how to define the process of exactly what it is that you want. And not just kind of like, I want a cool car. Like, what kind of car? What color? What's the interior? What kind of, everything, laying it out so it's so crystal clear.
All the senses. Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is in anything that you're doing, no matter what it is that you're going to do, you're going to get punched in the face. You're going to get slapped. You're going to get kicked, not physically, hopefully, but sometimes it's mentally, sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it's financially. And if you don't have that clear definition of why, then you don't know why you're doing this. And the first little bump that comes along that road is going to be enough for you to put that car in park and say, I'm done. Right? So figure out your why. Why are you doing this? And if you have a strong enough why, that's going to help you get through this. If you're like, I just kind of thought about trying real estate, like that's not a strong why. And I have a feeling you're going to be one of the folks who don't survive.
In our team too, like it wasn't always like this. Like we always had the theory of the carrot or the stick. So a lot of times, you're constantly like, I was like chasing everybody, like, how many deals or how many people did you talk to? Like, how many leads, like number, da, da, da. And it was like, I was beating my head against the wall because calls weren't getting made. And it was just like this awful atmosphere. And then once we kind of removed some of that chasing and, if you're not showing us how much you're doing, then okay, we're done. And now it's all carrots, and all the girls, like, they all want it. And it's funny too, because the one that we brought on full time, she is just a huge asset to our team, Brittany, and she's just a rock star. She was a nurse. She still does it a little bit, but mostly she's with us full time. And somebody even questioned her, like, how do you not want to take all the deals for yourself? And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, people would even think that. And I just like, it kind of blew me away that someone would even have that thought process, because Brittany's not that type because obviously we pay her very well for the deals that she helps us bring in, but we're also teaching her how to fish, in a sense of when she's ready, she has this process that she can add to her own portfolio, and we're going to be there every step of the way to help her. So I think that, it's again, that mindset. If you're thinking about how, oh man, I would just take all their deals, then whoa, like, hold up.
And I think it's our relationship and this is the importance of having the right people on your team.
Mm-hmm.
We've said it to Brittany. We've said it to every one of our students. Students.
Team.
Our personal team. If there's ever a seller that we come across where the property is in your neck of the woods or somewhere where that you really like, and instead of us taking down that deal, you want it for yourself, be our guest.
Perfect. That was going to be my next question. How do you incentivize? Yeah.
And you know what? We've told every one of our teams, we want you to get either your first house or your next house through buying it with creative financing. And it's going to be one of these sellers who's going to reach out to us. And it's going to say, I have a house for sale, and this is going to be right where you're looking. And it's going to be your dream home or your home. And you're going to want that for yourself. I don't even want you to be shy. I just want you to say, Joe, oh my goodness, I'm talking with a seller, or Jen, I'm talking with a seller and I love it. Do you mind? And you know what? We're going to, help them through the finish line.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so fun to do that. It's the abundance mindset. There's so much out there. There's so many deals to be had. And that grateful over greedy would be the other phrase we hear and we use all the time, because there's, again, just so many things out there for everybody.
Yeah. And so are y'all paying like a W-2 wage, and then they also get like a part of the deals that they work on, or how are you structuring some of that?
So we have a fishing mentality that if you catch a fish, you eat, right? So we pay them handsomely on the deals that they do bring. And it could be to the point where you do 2-3 deals a month, and it could surpass what you're currently making at your job. I'm not trying to spread anybody's business in the street, but I will say Brittany talked to a seller recently that we did a deal on. And once this deal closes, you don't need a whole lot of them to, justify why this is a great thing to be able to be home and be with your kids and be able to be the one that actually takes them to daycare and be home when your kids get off the bus from school. Like, that's a good feeling to have, rather than having the babysitter at the house or grandma at the house. The fact that you can do that, it's pretty awesome. So, the fact that we're able to help her achieve her goal. And so what we really try to focus on is our team's success. And I know if our team is successful, and I know if our team is getting paid well, we're going to. So I don't focus on us. I focus on our team's success, because it'll flow to us naturally if that happens. So how can I make each one of our team members the most successful as possible? And I'm going to guide them and coach them, and Jen's going to guide them and coach them. The same thing goes for our students. If we have successful students who are doing what we're doing, and they're having great results with it, and we're changing their lives, we're going to have a lot more folks interested.
So you're giving them a finder's fee even if they don't close the deal, or is it if they close the deal as well?
If only when the deals close.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha.
Only when the deals go down.
Right. Okay, great.
So we have a disposition side too. 2 other young ladies who work on our team. And this is why it's all teamwork. We have 4 who work with the sellers. We have 2 that's time to sell those houses, and they're working with buyers. So we all work together as a family, because without the people on the front end who are working with sellers trying to buy the deals, we don't need help on the back end. But the back end, are the ones that find all the buyers, and without them, we're not getting paid.
Mhm.
So therefore, it's all a big working team together to make sure that we're buying houses, we're selling them, whether we're signing them or keeping them for our own, and then we're looking for rent to own tenant buyers. So there's a lot of moving parts. And when you make 5 to 10 contracts a month, that's 5 or 10 insurances you have to add every month, 5 or 10 utilities that have to get switched over. There's all types of moving 5 to 10 buyers and sellers. Like, that's a lot of chaos that happens every month. And you have to be really good at keeping it clean.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also interesting when people say that their acquisitions and dispositions don't talk much, because that's just like a terrible idea in my opinion. Because also comps matter a lot. Like the front end could say like, oh, I think the ARV is going to be, XYZ, but then when you get to dispositions, it could be totally different. So I think it's really, really key that y'all are all communicating as a team. So yeah.
Well, you got to imagine, as an acquisitionist, you're not going to get paid until the dispositionist does their job. So how do I help the dispositionist do her job the best? And so our acquisition team now is doing amazing write-ups. They're giving her all the info she needs, the pictures that she needs. And they are all talking because A, we do have a wonderful team, but B, it's necessary that communication to make sure we're sharing all the information possible to help everything work correctly. And so keeping them separate, yikes.
That's what big companies do a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So, do you do any personality tests? I always think that's interesting because I use DISC, but like some people use other stuff. So I'm just interested if y'all do anything like that to kind of see like who matches, better for your management style or, whatever it is. If you have anything to add on that.
Yeah, we do have a personality test. The 2 factors are, do you have a positive mental attitude and a good work ethic?
Yeah. Okay.
And if you have a good mental attitude and a good work ethic, then we could work with anybody.
Yeah, we don't like have a formal test or anything like that. We do have like a little mini rating scale we came up with just to like give an idea of like, where are you with social media 1 to 10, how do you handle this or that? But we haven't done that, but we have a really good people reading skill. I think he does, especially because he's worked with a ton of people. So I feel like for me, it's a little different. I was with kids for so long being a teacher. Adults are a little different. So.
Well, and I think too, it's like how our concept works. My own business, it's all results driven.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So it sounds like it's sink or swim. So if they don't swim, then you're out the door already. So it doesn't really matter to do too much on the front end, it sounds like.
Well, not really, because it's our time invested, and our time is the most valuable thing we have. So it is a worry. Do we have the wrong fit, or do we not do a good enough job training? And I'll tell you what, where most people failed their team is not adequate training. And it's one of those things, the more you put into your team, the more you're going to get out of it. So a lot of people don't like taking that leadership role of help guiding their team to understanding what it is our mission is, right? So the more time you spend with them. So if you have a failure, to us, it's a big deal. It feels like a breakup. Somebody leaves our team and I'm wondering, how did we fail them? How did we not give them the tools? Did we give them the tools? Did we do everything we could have to make sure they're successful? And then also too, sometimes they just don't want it. Maybe they got into something that's just in over their head or just something that they don't want, and that's okay. But it is a lot of time invested. So that's why we want to make sure that we bring the right fit onto our team. And it's just kind of like, after you've dated, you become more into like, I'm not dating unless it's the right fit.
We're very in tune as far as what we're looking for now. And
somebody who reached out to us in April who said, I want to be part of your team. And we kind of chatted a little bit. She sounded great, but we had a lot of things going on. So I kind of just said, I'll let you know. And it didn't. I'm somewhat forgetful. And we have tons of stuff going on. We have a lot of folks who reach out to us. We were just talking about how we want to bring somebody onto our team. And literally, as I'm on the front porch this morning, she texted me out of the blue and was like, hey, are you still looking for somebody? Because I'm ready to rock. And I'm like, I call myself, I'm like, babe, look it. And she's got folks who reached out to her too. So, we're going to definitely bring on at least one more to our team. And that's exciting because we do have a great bunch. And but I'm sure if you don't fit
We're
in,
still very much in the business. So we're
Yeah.
working on
Yeah.
not removing ourselves all the way, but definitely I feel like we're at the point where we need like a transaction coordinator. I don't know what else to call that person, but from start to finish, it's not an acquisitionist and it's not a dispositionist, but it can't be me or Joe. It's got to be somebody else who's like, can be really on top of every little step along the way because there's so many deals happening now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned training a bunch. How much training do y'all, I mean, is it like every day, or you doing like weekly meetings with your team to kind of do some coaching? And yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about training?
Yeah. So on Mondays and Fridays, we have our weekly meeting where we do it every Monday, every Friday. It's usually an hour to two, depending on how long-winded I am. Everybody else is usually pretty good. But I'm also training. I'm doing a lot of the educating during that time too. But Mondays and Fridays is where we go over deals.
Okay.
We're going over, did you send this contract here? Did we do this? So we invite our students also to come into our Zoom meetings to be a fly on the wall. So if you want to hear about the deals that we're doing and hear how our meetings are ran, part of their education, come on in, be a fly on the wall in the Zoom and listen. And then what we do on Wednesdays, we spend about an hour to two. Today was a little over two, but we go over sales training. And what sales training look like? It could be where we have a script that we designed and we're going to play the script and we're going to role play. And I'm going to be the person like you are. And you could be Mrs. Grumpy Seller or Mr. Grumpy Seller, whatever you want to do. And we'll have fun. So we do a lot of that and how they listen to how we handle objections. We do live seller calls together. So not only training just in those designated times, but if they have somebody that they're working with and it needs to get onto a seller or a closing call, they either get myself or Brittany on that call, and they're also listening. So they're getting trained on the job by listening to these calls and how we're able to handle the script like we talked about and get through the process and see if this is a deal or not. And so training is constant with what we do because we also get a lot of text messages throughout the day, a lot of messaging and how do I handle this? And so I can't say it's really like a once in a week thing, but if you want to see your team just do like one of these, that's how to do it because that's what made the big difference for us.
And I think that's a huge difference between that and a VA because I know a lot of people try to use the VA. We've tried that route. It just didn't really do much for us. But again, like when you find the right people who want to invest in themselves and invest in you and your training, time-wise, that's just been huge for us.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. So I also wanted to talk real quick about programs because programs make my life work. But do you have any that you recommend? I know y'all mentioned QuickBooks, but are you doing like Carrot? Like what are you doing? What's your drip campaign? Who are you using in your day-to-day?
So the two programs that we use the most is called Adobe Fill and Sign. It's an app on your iPad that when you're filling out contracts, and DocuSign. If you don't have those two, yeah, you can still do deals, but I will tell you what, they will make your life easy. And when you're doing that many, it's great to see what contracts we're waiting on, which ones have already been agreed, which make sure they're sent off to the attorney's office. So that's been super helpful. As far as buying and selling, and we get our team involved with those. So now they're able to send out agreements right through DocuSign, and I could kind of sit and watch everything that's coming and going. And that's been super helpful. We have a CRM that we use. It's high level. It's nothing crazy, something that was just designed to keep track of all the incoming leads. It has some type of follow-up program involved with that. However, our team are such ninjas that when the lead comes in, they don't even give the time for the CRM to do this thing. They're already on top of it because we have a bunch of carrots that work for us and no sticks. And this is where I say having the right team around you is because like they all have lives, they all have jobs, they all have things going on. And I will tell you what, they're answering messages and stuff like all the time. And
it's nice to have like a handful because this is the first time for the last couple months, I would say we've had 4 really just like going through everything. And it's nice because they'll just pick up here and there. Like you could tell who's busy and, you don't see their names pop up. Cause I'll check in because we do so much Facebook. And so Business Suite, if you don't have money for a CRM, my goodness, just use Facebook because it's all free. And you can really just see what's going on through the Business Suite app. And a lot of our leads come in through comments that are left on our ads. And so it's just kind of fun to see like, oh, okay, who's on it right now. And I always try to like guess as I'm scrolling up, like which one it is. Cause at the very top, they'll be like, hi, I'm Brittany. I'm with Jen's team. So it's just kind of cool to see like what each personality is. Cause we always say, follow the script, but be you, don't be a robot.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. Okay, now we're getting more into y'all stuff. Well, let's hit morning routine. Do y'all have a good morning routine? What are you doing?
I do. I veered away from it over the summer and I noticed a big difference. So I set my alarm for 6 and I don't ever really want to get up, but I need that hour because our kids are pretty early risers. They're up by 6:45, 7. So I'm aiming for at least an hour with me, my coffee. This week I've been really good at leaving my phone in the other room and I'm reading a book of sorts or I'm journaling a little bit. And sometimes I'm just kind of sitting there and just kind of thinking. Quiet time for me is really, really critical. And then I'll probably start playing with my phone. I would say like 45 minutes into that morning routine because I do have messages that I'm checking. Sometimes I do use that time to organize some things and, I do all of the bills and this and that. So they're like taxes are all due. So like if I just have time and clarity in the morning, I'll just dive right in, but then I'll try to work out every day and walk the dog. And then we have family breakfast. So that's kind of our routine. But the beauty of it again is no one's rushing out the door. I'm not throwing cereal in anybody's face. They're like, oh my God, you didn't eat. It's a calm start to our day. And I think that's really been like one of my favorite things to have that.
Because it used to be chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd wake up, the dog's got to go out. I got to fly out the door for work. They got to go to school. My son's got to go to preschool, which she had to take him there too. Everybody had to be at the door by like a certain time. And it was just like a race. So my time I'd see the kids, I'm jamming breakfast down my throat and I'm seeing them for 15 minutes as they're running around and looking for their book bag because the bus is coming. And it was just one of those things where now, I mean,
I love it. There's some mornings I walk up, I don't even know a kid's awake and I hear like PBS is on and they're just cuddled in bed watching some show with dad. And like, that's really cool because they didn't have that when they were real little, except for on maybe a Sunday.
Right. Yeah.
And I really just get up in the morning. I'm looking at what's happened the day before.
Yeah, you just dive right in your emails.
I dive right into work first thing. Like
I hear him talking on his phone. He's talking to some attorney through an email or something.
Like there's times it's not even 6 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm emailing the attorney's office. And I kind of get my day set up. So if I could just clean all that off my desk.
Front load it, yeah.
Then I get up, you shower, you go to Starbucks, make that coffee run, bring it home. So she's got a little something. And then I'd want to dive into meeting modes and let's see what we got going.
Like you don't drink coffee too.
I said, and get you one too. I did say, got me one.
Yeah, it's been fun too when the weather cooperates. Right now it's kind of chilly, but we love beach walks in the morning. And that was kind of our thing for a little while too. But I don't like the cold. So.
Gotcha. No, that's great. And it doesn't have to be morning. It could be anytime. But my partner, for example, she loves late nights. I'm not a late night person. I like, if I try, like we'll try to watch a movie at night sometimes and I can't do it. I'm asleep by like 10. I can't do it.
That's me.
Nope. I'm the same way. I'm like the worst person to watch a movie with because I will always fall asleep on you. But early mornings things are great. So if it's warm here, because it's getting colder now, but if it's warm and we're able to go out for walks in the morning, get up early with the kiddos and do these things that we were never able to do before as a family. And then come home and then, the kids could go to their school thing. I get kind of dive into some work stuff and Jen's just, obviously supervising all of us.
Yeah.
It works out.
I'm
awesome.
Sitting around eating bonbons. I mean,
well, the funny thing about it is too, it's like, we don't even put a tiny fraction of what our days are like out in social media. And I know some people live on social media. We just can't because we have so much stuff going on. But if you see, she's like a track star. I mean, constantly running all day long, handling things that are going on. And some of the things that we get are just
Google Calendar, I would say that's probably
Yeah.
that I should have mentioned that for systems. Like once I
Mhm.
figured that out, and I just realized how to make your own personal calendar in there. So like I can schedule, because before like the CRM's connected. So anything I put, like the girls think we're blocked off and they can't book a call with him. But now I realize that you can actually have your own schedule in there that nobody else can see. So I'm like, woo, winning.
Yes, perfect. I do the same thing.
Keeps you on track, holds you accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel bad because sometimes even with my own partner, she's in school, she's becoming a therapist, but she was a teacher for 5 years. But she'll try to like ask me about like, oh, can we go on a date at this time? And I'm like, yeah, can you send me a Google Calendar invite? Like, I don't know anything if it's outside of my calendar. I'm sorry.
She's changed me. I'm getting much more like that now.
Yeah. Well, because otherwise you double book yourself or you forget this or that. So we really, being an entrepreneur, like things are just happening, or you block your time off. That's the other important thing, is make sure you take your time, because otherwise everybody else will. So it's important to remember what you need to do for you.
Time management is key.
The whole day will go by and you'll be like, what did I even do?
Yeah, absolutely. It also helps me with whenever I'm journaling. Like I know Brandon Turner talks about this, but like goal setting is huge for me. I have my goals on the wall too, but I redo them all the time. And then like, the once a year, I'll have to like look through my journal and my calendar. And like, it's funny that my calendar helps me more than my journal now, because I'm like, oh yeah, I did this. And then, okay, great. Now I can like focus in on what worked, what didn't work. And it kind of helps me a little bit more. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, cool. So let's see. Yeah, let's go through your straight line approach. I know you mentioned something about that on social media. I know I don't want you to give away everything, obviously, because we got to have people come to y'all because you're awesome. But just share a little bit about kind of like your programs and kind of what you're doing. Yeah.
So, we teach students and our own team, and we've taught them the things that we're using ourselves. And one of the things, because Jenn and I have been in a lot of different mastermind groups, coaching groups, whatever kind of groups, a ton of them. And we've received scripts throughout the years from a lot of them. And we've tried using them. And where I realized in my last job, if you're scripted, you sound like a robot and it's just no fun. It's very plain, right? So you have key questions you want to identify. You might even have them in the right type of a sequence, but making it easy and making it user-friendly has got to be key. Because I know when we first got into it, some of the scripts were literally like the most confusing roadmap in America, to where like you would, if the seller says yes, go to page 67. If the seller says no, go to page 4. And I'm like, okay, well, did they say yes or they say, and I'm scrambling through this thing, trying to find out like, what am I even supposed to say next? It was so confusing. So really what we kind of dialed into, like I would in my old sales process, was a very straight line approach, to where like you're going to ask a series of these questions in this order for a certain reason, and you can't switch them out of place. 4 never goes before 2, just doesn't work that way. So you go through these steps, and what we've learned is if you ask the right questions, we don't really have to make a lot of the deals. The sellers will make the deals for us. But you got to know the right questions to ask. So part of the things that we teach at our Creative Finance Playbook is, what are these questions? How to identify them? How to still use your own personality, because you're awesome is your own individual way. But these are the questions you're going to need to ask in this way. And we keep it all the confusion out of it. Mm-hmm. So our daughter, who is 8.5, the goal is by the time she's probably 12 or 13, like this is going to be her first job, is she's going to be talking with sellers and learning how to buy properties. So when she's 18 years old or younger, she wants to own her own house, she's going to do it this way.
And the cool thing is it works either on a phone or through messaging. And so it just cuts all of the fluff, like literal, like this is the approach that you should take. And like Joe said, I think the mistake happens where either you're too scripted and you're literally just sounding like a robot, or you're skipping all around and not going in the right order, because they've been designed to be asked in such a way to be answered correctly.
Yeah, and not to mention flipping through papers, sellers can hear that.
Right, like then you get all flustered because now you're flipping pages and now you can't find, well, is it this or is it that? Is it free and clear? Or, you're all over the place. So we kept it super simple.
Right. Okay, well, great. Thanks for answering that.
Yeah.
And that's free on our website. So we have that up there.
Perfect, perfect. All right, tell us, let's see. Yeah, do you mind running through like a phone call, just a couple of questions, the first things that you would ask? You don't have to, obviously, you don't have to do the whole scale, but like, what would be the first things you ask?
So, the first question I want to know is about the property.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's A1. Can you tell me about the property? And so what I mean by that is they're going to tell you obviously bedrooms, bathrooms, but they're going to tell you all of the things. And you're going to learn a lot just by that one simple question. And that's probably one of the most important questions to know. That's why it's the first question. And it's an easy question to talk about. So that's also why it's the first question, right? So when you're talking with somebody, that's an A1. Can you tell me a little bit about the property? And they're going to open up to you. And if they don't, then I don't want to know about it anyways. And I'm just going to move on.
If they're like, just look at Zillow, it's all on there.
And,
Mhm.
right. Because there's a lot of things you're not going to post on Zillow.
Mhm.
So that's always the first question. My second question is, what's their why?
Mhm.
Right? Why do they want to sell this house? And you want to find out, are they moving? Is it a divorce? Is it the list of 18 million other reasons why they want to sell this property? And we want to identify that, because obviously figuring the property and their why, and now we're tailoring our solution around to what their needs are. It's not about us, right? If we can make what they're trying to accomplish also align with what we're trying to accomplish, we're in deal maker mode. But if they're trying to accomplish things that aren't aligned with us, then we need to identify those factors, and we need to identify it within, not days, but minutes. And so we have a very good way of doing that easily to find out if we're all a good fit. And if they are a good fit, we take it to the next steps. And I think that's where a lot of times analyzing deals, investors get the roadblocks, because especially with creative deals, there's so many layers of how to structure these deals. It's not, 1+1 anymore. That's all out of the equation. So there's a lot to it. So, we want to tailor a solution or a few solutions to help out the seller. And so that's why these important questions are, tell me about the property. Why do you want to sell it? How soon do you want to sell it? Because that's important too. I mean, we have some people who say
5 years from now.
Yeah.
we had it happen. Somebody says, I'm thinking of selling in 2023. I'm like, well, then call us back then, or we'll call you before then. But
Yeah.
we want to figure that out. Some folks want to move in 6 months. Some people want to have this house sold yesterday.
But it's interesting, even we've had a couple where they didn't know that they were going to move quite yet, but then once they realized what we could provide, they were like, all right, I'm out of here. Like,
Yeah.
and they're calling us like,
Absolutely.
hey, we found a place in North Carolina, we're leaving. We're
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, perfect. All right. Let's see. Tell us a little bit about your mentorship program, kind of what that looks like. You did make a distinction between mastermind and mentorship, which I like. So yeah, just run us through a little bit of what that looks like, please.
Yeah, it really happened organically because it was last year where we're really still trying to figure out our team processes and all of our systems. And we just kept, we're going on live on Instagram and sharing what we're doing. And we just kept getting, tons of DMs of, when can you coach me? Can you mentor me? And we started, I think we had like 1 or 2 like little things online for free. And then we realized that there really was a need. And so we held some consultations in, I think it was March. And so we did our very first enrollment in April. We took on 6 students. It's a 6-month course, and we really didn't want to do much more than that because we're pretty intensive. You're getting him and I half hour a week, plus other, in betweens that you have questions on. And then what we did was we have a monthly mastermind that we do offer, where now all the students can come once a month and they can kind of share their struggles, their triumphs, their connecting and networking. And that's been huge for them as well. And from there, we decided to open enrollment again because this one's coming to a close and we're already full. So that's exciting. We'll be starting next month with a new crew.
And a lot of what we do, I mean, we have a private Facebook group that they have access to with a lot of, information on there. And it's about really just helping students grow from what they currently have.
Mhm.
And then obviously seeing how we can impact them with what we're doing and watch their business change right in front of our eyes. And it's really great. One of our students was an engineer, and she says she lives in Iowa, that her job was relocating to California and she didn't want to move. And so she was like, I'd love to be able to do this full time. I said, well, great thing about creative finance, that you don't need to go to the bank anymore to get a loan. And so you can do this full time without having that steady W-2. And she was able to do that and to walk away from her job. And then it got so awesome for her that now she says, I'm going to be spending a month in Mexico, and she's in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's really cool that
Still working her business.
still working her business,
Yeah.
everything virtual. We still meet our weekly meeting, which will be tomorrow, and she'll be in Mexico doing awesome things down there. And we're freezing in upstate New York.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool because we've had some students who already had properties and they were looking to flip things to rent to own. So we're helping them through that process. And we've had some who haven't done a deal yet creatively at all. And so just, setting up their marketing and helping them find some leads and really branding themselves. We spend a lot of time, just from the bottom up, and to see that progress has been just crazy.
One of our students, he got his first deal in 3 days.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And he's a 21-year-old college student.
Yeah.
It was off for the summer. And so he wanted to learn. And what he does when he graduates college next year, he's like, I actually would just love to do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
And got his first deal under contract. I think he just turned 22, or maybe he had under contract while he was still 21, but now he's got his buyer lined up, and he's going to make an assignment fee.
Mhm.
And for making the kind of money he's going to make, being that broke college student, he is extremely happy.
Yeah.
He's got a happy seller, happy buyer. Everybody made out in that deal.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's great. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one is for you, Jen. Me being a woman in the business has been pretty tough sometimes. So I just wonder if you have anything, that you have to share as far as being a woman in real estate investment business. Do you have any examples of times where you're like, this feels icky? Just kind of share about what it's been like for you and your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I do have my husband working with me, so I feel like there's that. But that being said, I feel like it is an interesting place, and it's a wonderful place for women to become investors. And I think the more, I saw something about, like, instead of teaching girls how to clip coupons and save money, like teach them how to open an IRA and, really be financially fit and savvy. And I thought that was awesome, because my daughter's never going to learn to clip coupons, right? Like, she obviously learn how to get a deal, because we're all about negotiating. But furthermore, there's a huge place for us as women. And we always say this, especially to our students who are female, feel like there's just this difference when you're speaking with a woman investor. We come from just a different place, and we're obviously can nurture, and we're, easier to talk to at times, because we don't have this big, broad, I buy houses, gruff statement all about us. We're very transparent on Facebook too. And I think that's really important, to just show who you are, that, how you're helping people, and come from a place of love, and know that you're here to truly help. And it's important to just share the stories, bottom line. And as far as that goes, as far as being a woman, one story when I read that question that came to mind was the firehouse he mentioned. And I try not to go to properties by myself, but again, he's crazy busy. I probably had the kids in the car. I just had to drop off a mirror. I think I'd ordered from Amazon. And I remember I'm walking up, and a weird van pulls up, and I didn't know any of these contractors because we had hired new people. And I'm kind of like, oh geez. And he walks up and he was like, oh, are you the stager? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, are you here to stage the house? And I was like, no, I'm the owner. And he was all like, oh, okay. And I'm like, can I let you in? Like, what are you here for? And he ended up being like the electrician. But, in that moment, I was kind of like, really, dude? So I've had a moment or two. And then my face is plastered all over Facebook. So of course I get some really awesome comments.
Yeah.
And, we just have fun with it. We tell our team, you know, if a negative comment comes in, be polite and appropriate, but like give it right back, you know, like, especially I feel like other women love to tear other women down, unfortunately. So, you know, that's just part of it, but you can't let any of it stop you. So like the best advice I can say is know your why, put your blinders on, and surround yourself with other women who are going to lift you up, because there's a ton of us out there. And I'd say Instagram is a really great place for that. I've met some amazing women investors, whether they're swinging the hammer or they're, you know, behind the scenes doing the deals, or they're getting on the phone with the sellers, or, you know, just, I don't know. It's just, there's such a good place for us all out there. And I feel like there's going to be more, you know, there's so many good outlets.
Absolutely. I appreciate you mentioning that, because there are times, you know, especially when I started, you know, even 8 years ago, I had way more, you know, comments back then than I have now that were negative, you know. So I do see that it's kind of shifting. I'm glad. So I'm glad that y'all are doing this and getting out there and showing that, yeah, I'm a woman investor and what's up, like, you know, but yeah, I still get the same thing. I invest in Arkansas. It's, you know, sometimes the contractors, it's usually contractors.
Right.
But
well, and I grew up in my dad's hardware store, so I've just kind of always been used to it, because I've had customers, oh, well, I need this and you can't help me. I'm like, you're right, I can't, even though I would know how to help them. My dad was like, you need to go be nice, you know, and I'm like, I'd be nice to that guy, you know, but I've always been a little feisty, a lot feisty.
She got some spice.
But you know, you got to know your grounds and believe in yourself and have the confidence. And some people, you know, what are you gonna do? You can't change them all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
right.
I am woman. Hear me roar, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, cool. All right. So I
Can
guess
I add one thing to that?
no. Just kidding.
I know-
no, you're not a woman.
Our team is women.
That's
And they're
true.
amazing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
are. And I see,
absolutely.
you know, they do an amazing job.
Yeah.
All right. So do you recommend any books or websites? Obviously, we'll talk about your shout outs in a little bit. You've got one already there, but yeah, let's talk about other books and recommendations you have for people to learn and get started in investments.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I think my favorite, it's just about overall, it's Think and Grow Rich. Is I think one of the best books that you can get. You know, the irony is most of the folks can't get through the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing really teaches you about persistence.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if you understand that book and the power behind it, I always felt like Napoleon Hill was like the original, like the OG of all of this, whether you want to call it self-help or whatever you want to call it.
The OG of PD, like personal development.
Right. And he really is. So a lot of the times you listen to a Tony Robbins or any of these other folks, it's all just a lot of that just regurgitated.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always liked that because, you know, he talks about masterminding. And in that, he even talks about masterminding with your partner, because nobody's going to have more skin in the game than your partner. Like it literally came like almost like he was talking to us, like, here's your partner right in your house, right next to you. You don't need another partner. Like she's right here. And once you kind of realize these and the power behind that book, you almost feel like you could accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, then rather if it's you want to be in real estate investing and or rather what it is, but, you know, it's also having that obsessive mindset of success, that I'm going to be successful. And it's more than just positive affirmations, because that doesn't just happen. Money doesn't just fall your bank accounts. But if you put the right things in motion and have those positive thoughts and positive affirmations, money will start coming to you in various shapes and sizes and different times. And it happens. I mean, I can't tell you how many times she'll be like, oh, something, I want money. And then all of a sudden there's like checks in our mailbox or something crazy happens. So we just got to talk about that more. I think that's really been some of the biggest ones. And as far as like real estate investing, I can't say there's been really a book that has changed me per se. I really don't read a lot of books.
Yeah, it's been more about mentoring.
It's been masterminds,
getting around
mentoring.
The people that are doing what you want to be doing and paying them to, you know, share their knowledge and their time and help guide you, because we're that huge idea of the forest through the trees. Because when you're doing everything yourselves, you can't see what's happening. Like everything's just kind of happening at once. But if you can have somebody else look in and say, if you do this and he does that, and then you add this, and then you're like, aha, you have this huge growth, the elevator to success.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. And then shout outs, how do we find you? Yeah, what, if I want to know more about mentoring, what's the best way to approach you? How does this work?
Yeah, we have the website, creativefinanceplaybook.com, and we do try to have freebies up there from time to time. We'll change them out. We have master classes where we do about an hour-long Zoom class, and then it accompanies with a PDF file, just depending on what you're looking for. We've touched on a couple different subjects there. We even have them bundled at a discount. And we also have our Instagrams, which he's definitely getting a lot better at. I'm so proud of him. I love Instagram, so I'm on there quite a bit to be able to share just, the behind the scenes and some of the deals that we're doing. Like, again, we can't share everything, but we really try to connect. And that's like where I've met most of our investor friends, I would say. Anybody who really, because your network is everything. So really becoming, in a team environment of, other people who are doing the things that you are, I think that's huge. So Joseph Delle Fave, Jenn Delle Fave on Instagram. And then we do a Facebook, Creative Finance Playbook as well. And we have a YouTube channel, but we don't upload as much as we should. So one day we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And it's been very informative, and y'all seem like awesome people. So I hope this helps your biz as well.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, you had some great questions.
Yeah.
Thanks. Do y'all have anything else you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
I would say if you're interested in being a real estate investor, like what Jenn said, surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do and learn from them.
Not just talking about it.
Actually doing it. Because, the thing is, if you do and you learn from some of these folks and you put to what they do in action, and the biggest thing is just don't quit.
Yeah. Because
the only way that you lose is if you quit. If you stay persistent and you continue on this, you will do well. And you just always have to have that student mindset, as I'm always a student of the game. Mm-hmm. I will probably never be a master, because I don't know if I'd ever leave the student role, because I am constantly trying to learn the newest, the latest and greatest. We're always working at our craft, no matter what it is that we're doing. And how can we be better? And if I'm not better this year than I was last year, time out, something's wrong. And so, which is neat, we could track growth with numbers. So you can see that, but also as an individual, how are you becoming better? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really just
rest, don't quit. Like that's probably the biggest key, because it's not easy, right? And it's not supposed to be, because if it were, everybody'd be doing it.
Yeah. And that's what I told our team this morning. I was like, the successful people are willing to do the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. Mm-hmm. They won't do it.
Absolutely. And I think, I focus on my why, but I also always think worst case scenario. I'm like, well, what's the worst case? Oh yeah, going back to the corporate job. So like, yeah, that is a fire under my ass at all times.
That's a great level of motivation, because the same thing would happen to me. Like, what would happen if we didn't do well here? I would have to go and ask for my old job back, which would still pay well, but then I know the lifestyle that I'd be leaving and then also getting back into. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, life is quick. They say it's long, but it's not, and you want to enjoy every minute that you can. And when you could actually start stopping and smelling the roses along the way, it really could change your perspective on life. And that's been really the biggest gift. And what this business provides, that we could do this virtually and we could do it anywhere, means, like I said earlier in this, we're not tied to our city anymore. We could go to California, come visit you, and make room for the kids in the Chihuahua, and we could all, and that's the fun thing, is we could go anywhere and do this. Yeah. And that's probably one of the biggest gifts. That's too.
The next goal. Yeah.
So, if you see something that you like, be a student of it, follow it, and study and learn, and then start executing some of these things. And don't be afraid to spend a little money on.
I was just say, don't be afraid to invest in yourself, because I see that a lot. Like, oh, I can't spend that, but people are out buying the brand new iPhone and the new PlayStation, whatever it is.
5.
But they won't spend.
I didn't even know.
Which we don't have it. We don't have it. But we're looking to go drop way more on a mastermind or a mentorship, to know that we're going to be providing, because you're going to give back. and you're going to get back, and you're going to be able to help so many more people. So if you can look past your wallet and your own mental demons almost, then you can really start changing the world. And
Well, and that's what I think. If you're willing to spend $1,000 on a PlayStation 5, but you're not willing to spend $1,000 on some course that's going to help you be better at whatever it is that you do, then your mind frame's going in the wrong directions.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
and also $1,000 versus, you know, what is college now? It's like, you know what I mean? Like way different. When I put it into that perspective, it's fine. You know, I mean,
Right. And then we always say that too, because, you know, as we were sharing our mentorship, I thought his analogy was great. Like when you go to college, you can't bring your teammate, your spouse, your child, your this, your that. Like you go to that class and you're paying for your seat. That's it. But when you are doing most of these, I mean, I know ours, like you bring whomever you're working with and they get trained too. So
that's perfect. Yeah. Thanks for adding that in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank y'all.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna stop recording now.